Hello and welcome to Wednesday Night Undressed. This is Louis Orlando, and tonight I'm joined with Evo, Alena, uh, Jamie, Kay. Fernando is going to be joining us a little later, and our special guest tonight is Heather. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Awesome. Okay, I wanted to start by asking you guys to think about what the phrase home cooked meal means to you guys. Like, when you think of home cooked meal, Jamie, I was literally thinking about you when I thought of this question. Uh, when you think of home cooked meal, what comes to mind?
Recently, once a year.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. When you think about like growing up, though, what pops into your head?
The only thing I can think of is my mom. She'd make a meal. We'd sit down at the table.
Uh-huh.
She'd say, "Damn, it's all white again." And what she was making reference to is that everything on the plate was white.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That there was no.
I've done color-themed meals a lot. Like, you might just choose yellow and you have macaroni and cheese and squash and chicken. And yeah, I get the color reference, definitely.
Yeah, she tried to be healthy, but it was always, "Damn, it's all white again."
So isn't that like and I could just be remembering this wrong, but isn't that like a Pennsylvania Dutch thing that you're supposed to have, like, is it 7 whites or 7 yellows at every meal? Have you heard of this at all before? Okay, it's just me. Never mind. I probably dreamt it up. It's probably some weird.
That's interesting.
Now I'm going to go to the interwebs.
Yeah. Well, if only we had the ability to look this kind of thing up, but that's outside my purview right now while I'm looking at my notes. Alena, how about you? When you think of home cooked meal, since Jamie was the person primarily responsible.
Oh, I mean, I actually think more about like what Nina and Pop, like her parents would make. Like they would make like spaghetti a lot,
Uh-huh.
and so would Uncle Chris. And then like here, like Dad would make like fish sticks.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I think of like growing up. I
Gotcha.
can't think or stir fry.
Uh-huh. Stir fry.
Yeah.
Who was the big stir fry maker?
Dad made a lot of stir fry.
Oh,
He did,
very
like,
interesting.
Just as many vegetables as he could.
Uh-huh. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because you were not a vegetarian growing up, were you, Evo?
No, I became vegetarian in the army when I was 20 years old.
Uh-huh.
So that was many, many decades ago. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, growing up, I ate meat, and the choice, the homemade choice for me was we made. Do you remember Louis Kuftenza? It's
Was
like
that the thing that was in the crock pot that we ate pretty much everywhere that we went?
No, that's like hamburgers, but without any bread.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
they actually have bread inside of the hamburger. They
Uh-huh.
put a little bit of bread inside of the hamburger patty, and then French fries. So that was when I was growing up. But also,
So it would be equivalent to like meatloaf here, only like hamburger patty meatloaf. So they put a lot of vegetables, bread, soak bread, stick the bread in there. So
Okay. I'm like, did they make the cows eat a lot of bread before? Yeah, it was like, I didn't understand.
yeah, they soak the bread as a way to hold it together.
yeah,
Oh, hold it together. Okay.
my grandmother.
Yeah, so you take white bread or sourdough bread or heavy dough bread, you soak it in water. Or
Okay.
you squeeze it out and then you put it in the meat mixture. Sorry, Eva, go ahead.
No, I was going to mention the mekitsi, which is a pastry, kind of a pastry that was our breakfast often, and it was absolutely delicious. It's actually kind of like funnel cake.
Mm-hmm.
My
It's
grandmother,
like rye bread kind of.
my grandmother would make it from scratch, from flour and water and eggs, and she would spread the dough and then fry it. And then we ate these with dipping them in honey.
Mm-hmm.
So you dip it in honey. It's like calorically, it's like eating a giraffe, basically. But my God, it was so delicious.
So I can
Yeah.
remember specifically like us leaving Rila Monastery and Alena
Yes.
finding a stand for them and just losing her mind. So
Oh my God, yeah. It
yeah.
was freaking, because for a while they stopped making them for like maybe 10 years. And now they're very popular again in Bulgaria. But for a while it was hard to find them in like find a store that would sell
Ah,
them.
gotcha, gotcha. And so Jamie,
It's
you've
still
made those a
until
couple times, right? Like while I
uh,
was there, I believe. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, so Kay, what about you? As a kid, what was a home cooked meal like?
Well, sadly, my mom was not much of a cook. So if
Uh-huh.
I was to say a home cooked meal from my childhood would be
Uh-huh.
either broccoli or hot dogs.
Oh,
But
wow.
What about
fortunately,
broccoli and hot dogs?
Yeah.
no, it was neither. Um, but fortunately, my sister became a chef, and so I now get to be the snotty food girl that I am. Um, but my dad made a really wonderful, comforting meal that we called camp out food.
Uh-huh.
And he would saute onions and potatoes and just put them in a pan and saute those together. Whatever meat we had, whether it be a hot dog or sausage or whatever, throw that in and then crack like 2 to 4 eggs over it and just stir it all up. And we called it camp out food, which you could actually do on a one skillet if you went camping.
Hmm.
And that was always something really cool. And the fact that my dad knew how to turn on an oven was very amazing. So, or on a stove, and so that's something that I would consider like my home cooked family meal would be dad making that on the very few times that he figured out how to turn on the stove. So
Gotcha, gotcha. How
And
about you,
Heather,
Heather?
what about you, Heather, growing up in all over the world?
Well, I grew up here in primarily, my family was from Wisconsin, so we had the meat and cheese, and then we ended up here in Lawrence when I was 8. So when I was about 9, my mom figured out the hard way because it wasn't really known back then that 2 of my sisters were celiac. So in the 70s, it was pretty hard to get anything gluten free. So we always had kind of this range of Asian noodles and rice things, and she was learning how to cook with rice flour because the 2 younger girls couldn't eat the same thing as the 2 older girls, and so she wanted everybody to have the same thing. So it was a lot of experimentation, but she was also kind of a hippie, and she would make homemade yogurt where you put it like in little jars and then you stick it in the oven with a pilot light and let it sit overnight, and in the morning it's like fresh yogurt with jam on the bottom.
it kind of sounds disgusting.
It was so good. It's really, really good.
Wow.
And then, but for me, my favorite that she did was her fried chicken. And it's just very classic American. Her family is from Russell and Hayes, and my dad's family is from Wisconsin, and so it was a lot of Midwestern type foods like stuffed peppers and fried chicken and but yeah, the fried chicken. She makes a mean fried chicken.
Oh,
Oh,
can
so
I
good.
throw in one more thing? Just
Go for
because
it.
yesterday was kind of momentous. So the 28th of July, the 28 de Julio, is the Independence Day of Peru. And I went to a restaurant and had my little red and white Peruvian flag on the table. And ironically, somebody walked by and went, "Oh my gosh, Kay, I'm here with 3 other Peruvians." And so I went out to the patio where they were, and we sang the national anthem with the red and white flag. And then I shared the food that my sister was making, not the chef, but the other one. And the Peruvian food, like Lima is known for its wonderful, amazing food. And Lisa made this amazing smorgasbord. We normally have a huge party, but we didn't do it yesterday. But these ladies, I think, there might be 12 Peruvians in Lawrence, Kansas. And 4 of us were in the same place yesterday, and it was hysterical. And we just talked about food and Peruvian food. It was wonderful. It was just cool.
I mean, that's one of those things where if you aren't living in the country where you grew up, missing the real food is the hardest part. I think having that taste of home is always I mean, it's really hard to be without that for a long time. And you can kind of replicate it wherever you are, but it's never quite the same. So yeah,
I
it's
agree. No, I
yeah.
So whether
actually
you're good,
asked the
yeah.
question because I was thinking about my mom's cooking. Like we were, my mom was like soul food 100% of the time. Like everything was made from scratch, and my wife is still awed and amazed that because of that I can make homemade biscuits. Um, and it's one of the simplest things on the planet to make. But whenever like I go
Dude,
in
it's
and
easy to mess up because I have cooked all over the world and I
uh
cannot make a biscuit to save my life. I
really,
cannot do it. Can't. I'm not a baker. There's something about that chemical reaction that happens when you're baking that
uh-huh,
is elusive. And everything is always a little okay, but it's not okay.
wow,
Not okay. I'm really
wow.
good with other stuff, but
Send me a
not that.
recipe on biscuits, please.
Okay,
You just do
it's
cream biscuits?
what's that?
You do cream biscuits, or is it just a basic butter biscuit?
Just a basic butter biscuit. My mother-in-law is she has just introduced me to the cream biscuit recently. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as like my mom, literally we would have biscuits and eggs and sausage every morning, and then yeah, uh, for dinner was usually something like greens and fried chicken, like you mentioned, along with
Yeah.
biscuits or cornbread. And my wife is also very, very concerned that we ate spaghetti and cornbread all the time. It was like just we would have it sometimes three times a week. Yeah, and like we would have it, and we would actually take the cornbread and crumble it into the spaghetti. And so, like my entire family, both sides, that's how we eat it, and it's just that it's just the way it's done. Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
never have even occurred to me that existed, but
Uh-huh.
now it's intriguing because it's that sweet, crispy,
Yeah.
like mouthfeel mixed in with like the noodles.
Uh-huh.
Did you have a sauce of any kind?
Say that one more time.
Did you have a sauce of any
Yeah,
kind?
just a tomato sauce, standard tomato sauce, just mixed it. Well, it was homemade tomato sauce, so I
Right.
still can't find anything in the store that tastes anything like my mom's homemade
I
sauce.
will bring you marinara next time I see you. I've been doing it since COVID and just going out to the farmer's market and buying tons of tomato, and all I do is make marinara sauce. So
That's a little strange there,
I,
Kay. Do you have a preoccupation with marinara?
Well,
it's
some people are doing sourdough. She's doing marinara.
Marinara. Okay. Okay, that's fair.
I can freeze it,
Uh-huh.
and then in January, when hopefully our lives come back to normal, by then, hopefully, I will have the best lasagna and pasta that anybody has ever had. So
I gotcha. Ooh, that's a perfect transition to my next question. Um, so school's getting ready to reopen, and for a lot of us that have, especially like little kids, I guess most of us don't. I guess I'm the only one on the panel that has little kids, and my littlest is 10. Um, this is a little disconcerting. How do you guys feel about schools potentially opening face to face?
I would, the debate is raging hard and heavy in California because we're a little more assertive and progressive about keeping things shut down if we need to. So
Mhm.
it's been a really interesting debate there. And I love to read research papers and medical research papers, like on the side as a hobby. Um, it's been really interesting because we've got a couple of researchers coming out of Germany saying, they've gone back to school and they've had pretty good success with very little transmission coming out of those schools. And we're talking about a lot of schools. I mean, tens of thousands of kids. But then on the converse side, we've got Israel coming out saying, hello, new guy.
That's our buddy
Um,
Fernando.
hello.
hi,
Hey,
Fernando.
Fernando.
Hola.
We have a lot of we have research coming out of Israel very recently, like within the last 2 weeks, saying that they've had very high transmission rates and they've had some familial groups really be affected because the kids brought it home. So it's interesting to see how different countries are experiencing different versions of all of the possibilities, and but at the same time, like how much are you willing to risk? how much are you willing to put on the line in order to give the kids the socialization and the structure? And over 50% of the teachers in the United States are over the age of 50, which means you have an entire 50% of your teaching staff in the country and in each state being in a high-risk category just by their age. So
Right.
how does that play out? Are they going to have? There's so many questions, and I did a really great post a couple of weeks on Facebook, and it was a very long list of very detailed situational questions that said, okay, so if a kid tests positive in the classroom, does that mean the rest of the classroom has to be tested? Does that mean the classroom has to be disinfected? Does that mean the teacher has to go on a quarantine? Do the kids have to go on a quarantine? In that case, and if the kids have been exposed, do the parents have to go on a quarantine? It's just an endless loop. And I don't think there's any good answer, nor right answer.
Yet.
I just, it's a risk to everybody if they go back. It's a risk in a lot of ways if they don't, when it comes to, families who are depending upon the kids to go back to school to be able to get back to work.
Sure time.
But so she's saying
Well-
share time. And and I don't have any kids. I have friends with kids. I have sisters with kids.
You know, stepkids.
Yeah, and I have 2 stepsons that are in their 20s, but that's a completely different scenario.
Gotcha. Well, Fernando is kind of in the same boat. His kids are a couple years older than mine. What are your thoughts on going back to school, Mr. LaFleur?
Well, definitely they are not ready. And for the sake of we are like the year's 2020. There is a lot of technology. I think each case is a different case. It just pissed me off. Like the government, they just say, "Oh, schools gotta open," but they should. What about the solutions? How much it costs to really assure like all the staff is safe? You do more commuting. Imagine the kids like in the school bus. Like where is the infrastructure? Like where is the free internet for who needs? So I'm glad at least the school district here, like they're gonna be starting remotely and see later.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally definitely like I'm positive like some regions they might be more ready. Depends, it's such a tough equation. Like it's not like open for all. Like US definitely like if you see just the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
no way. Like we're not ready yet.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think we're ready, and I think it is dangerous to like compare our numbers to countries that had their disease much more under control than we did.
It's not even comparable in any way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
my kind of standard is when you feel like the White House can open up to guests again, I feel like we should open the schools. Because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, right?
Yeah.
And they're not doing that. And DeVos is not offering any practical, hands-on.
Really.
Anything.
Really.
Sorry, Evo, I cut you off.
Banging my head.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Go ahead, Evo. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh no, I was agreeing. The administration is adamant about opening the schools. There's so much discrepancies between what the federal government wants and what the separate states want. Like Gavin Newsom doesn't want the schools open. Laura Kelly obviously doesn't want to have the schools open. At the same time, Governor of Texas wants them open. Governor of Ohio wants them. It's just such an absurdist mess.
Yeah.
We're so fragmented as a country. We don't have a unifying federal authority that is capable of being a leader. We have a guy that, in the immortal words of Lord Farquaad from Shrek, he says, if you remember, he said, "Some of you are going to die, but this is a sacrifice I am willing to make."
Having performed in the musical, I get it.
Yeah.
Perfect, Evo.
At the same time, that the Forever Cheeto has, he ran on the idea of fracturing every structure we had in place. His draw to many of the people who voted for him was, I'm going to drain the swamp and I'm going to break down everything and we're just going to do it differently. And he absolutely has done that. I find it enraging, but at the same time, he has just broken all of the systems we had in place. And this is another one of those where, as opposed to giving a leading unifying stance on how to deal with a unifying pandemic, he has quote unquote left it to the states, but at the same time he gets mad when the states do anything. So it's I love your background right now. That is awesome. The face. Oh, the face. But
tiny hands.
He's the epitome of a non-leader, in which he breaks things and then gets mad when people have to stand up for themselves to do it themselves, and then wants to shut them down for doing it. And it is the opposite of being a leader. And the states now are suffering with that when it comes to schooling and testing and everything else. And with the schooling, there are areas that have a very, very low transmission rate and have very few numbers. And I think it would be fine for those places to open, because they're functioning in a way, they have more spread out, they're rural, whatever the circumstances are. But for higher density communities, it's more difficult to make that choice. But then coming from LA, I would say we also have it's like the second largest. LAUSD is massive. And one of the really hard things is we have a really high contingency of non-internet connected students.
Oh yeah, and that's something that a lot of folks aren't really thinking about when they're talking about the transition to online learning. So fortunately, though, at least in this area, a lot of the internet service providers are providing services to families for free. Don't know if that's going to happen in the fall, but at least it did happen in the spring.
Yeah, you know how absurd everything is. For example, our school district, 497 here, decided that we are only going to have online studying for the first 6 weeks at least, quite possibly for the rest of the year. But at the same time, Keisha, the governing body of high school athletics, yesterday took a vote to allow practice and sports, high school sports. So I'm coaching high school, and I am starting practices, and I have no idea, does it make any sense for us to play games against each other, against other schools, travel with school buses and everything, and at the same time, those same kids are not allowed to go to class. So there's a weird dichotomy here, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. There's so much.
Do you teach? And what do you coach?
Yeah, I coach the soccer teams at the high school, and both the girls and the boys. And so
when they voted for that and they said, yeah, we're going to do this, did they give you any directives or anything at all on how to maintain safety and social distancing? You can't social distance on the bus.
You can't social distance in soccer.
Are they going to supply masks? Are they going to disinfect the buses? What happens where they're staying over someplace? What happens at the games? Are they going to disinfect the equipment? Did they give any directive on that?
They haven't come up with a protocol. They just said to proceed. They actually assembled to vote on banning the high school sports, and the vote failed. So they said, go ahead. So now I'm sure we're going to have, the coaches will have to wear masks. People that are on the bench will wear masks. Maybe the referees will wear masks. But I mean, it's a contact sport. You're always in proximity of other people.
I was going to say, spitting is a part of soccer, right?
Spitting is mandatory.
It's part of
So, Evo, that was when I sent out the questions, I basically just copied a bunch of the questions that I hadn't gotten to in previous questions. And the question was how are you living without sports? But they are starting up, baseball and the high school sports and things like that. Do you have concerns about yourself? And Do you think that it can be made to be safe?
Um, you know, selfishly, I want the sports. I want the sports to proceed. This is how
Uh-huh.
conflicted I am.
Right.
I am on the side that we have to be super careful, wear masks,
Uh-huh.
stay at home as much as possible. At the same time, there's so many little things that come into play in every specific case. For example, with me, I have a bunch of kids that are seniors
Hmm.
that have prepared for 10 years. They have practiced for this season to become a team that can win the state title. This is their dream. This is something that they were looking forward, and they're going to keep, hopefully, for a memory for the rest of their life, winning that trophy. And if the high school season is canceled, this dream will evaporate
Right.
and it will never happen, and everybody will be devastated, including me.
Hmm.
I've been waiting for this. I've been preparing those kids for this moment. We're going to lose 7 of them. They will be seniors,
Wow.
and we will probably never have a team like this again.
Hmm.
So selfishly, I kind of want this to proceed. At the same time, how do we make it safe? We just can't. um, MLS, the Major League Soccer, very, very smart, very forward thinking, adopted this plan, also adopted by the NBA, to have all the games in one place. Basically, they call this the bubble. It's not a literal bubble, but it's kind of a one place. It's in Orlando, Florida, which is stupid, but whatever. At least they stay all in the same hotel. They don't mingle. They're separated, somewhat isolated. They play the games tournament style, direct elimination, and they minimize uh, contact with any kind of outside human beings, and they get tested every single day. So they did it that way. NBA did it this way. Major League Baseball went the other direction and made a huge mistake. They decided, no, we're going to travel to every team stadium. We're going to fly. We're going to, play the games the way we play it, just without audience. And look at
But
them how,
they did restrict it a lot. They restricted it quite a bit, and
yeah,
they don't travel that much. Like they don't travel as far. And I think it's actually good for Major League Baseball to cut down from 300 games a year to 60. So
60.
yeah, I'm
But
like,
that being said,
goodness.
there's three teams in Florida, 3 teams in Texas, 5 teams in California. That's 1/3 of the Major League Baseball is in the hot zones where the virus is rampant, and those teams are basically spreading the virus around to other teams now and other states. Florida Marlins are basically out. They have 12 people from the team tested positive. So now all their games are canceled. It's a mess. And football
Yeah.
is also making the same mistake. They're going to travel to stadiums instead of making it in one place. And we high schools, we can't have we are going to travel to each other's places.
Right.
And whether, how are we going to contain it? I have no idea. What happens when one kid comes down with the virus, and then we have to quarantine all the other teams that have played against that team,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a chain reaction. So I want to have a season. At the same time, I realize it's probably impossible.
Yeah. I'm kind of stuck in the same boat. Like my daughter has she does karate, and so she's been looking forward to a bunch of competitions there, and I want the competitions to happen, but I also want to make sure that she's safe. And ultimately that is also my dilemma with school. Like I do think it's important, like there is a social maturitization prospect that like school helps the kids along with. So I think it's important, but ultimately I'm terrified. We have to be careful because we have medically fragile people in our house, and so for us, it's a little bit more personal. We got to make sure that we keep our guys healthy, and we obviously don't want anything happening to the family. So yeah, I don't have a simple answer. I just know that I need a it would be nice to have some governmental, assistance in like having some actual direction as opposed to just shutting down the records coming into the CDC, the one group of people that know what the hell to do.
Alena just told me about a great doctor that's in touch with the White House currently.
Oh, she's not inside. I was just talking about this Dr. Stella Emanuel. I don't know if you guys
The demon seed and fibroids.
Yeah, that like Trump talked about. I don't think they're like in contact, but he just talked about.
Oh, they are in contact. He promoted her to some kind of position.
He did not.
Yes, he did.
No,
Yeah.
that's not real.
Yeah.
Really?
Is that real? I just knew that he mentioned her at like a rally.
No, he promoted her.
No. She's on the team. She's on the team, like at least temporarily. And
Okay.
yeah. No, that is real. And actually, Kay and I were talking about the press conference yesterday, in which the reporters were really hounding him about that woman's statements that, like, if you were a woman with fibroid tumors or cysts, it means that you had demon sex and you have demon seed inside of you, and that alien DNA is being used to make medicines or something like that, and there's this whole other list of things. And
the freaking witch trials.
But she was pushing hydroxychloroquine, and Trump didn't actually know about her other stuff.
Oh, of course, you didn't even have to say that.
I know.
Of course, he doesn't know.
So,
All right, hold on. I don't want to make our show all about demon sperm. So I want to stop talking about the crazy doctor woman, and I want to ask a question. And this question is really kind of Evo. I'm going to have to discount you from this question because you're already an entertainment legend and an international treasure. So I have to ask the rest of the panel, what show would you want to guest star on to break it and make it big in the entertainment field, in an entertainment field? I'm going to start with you, Kay.
Oh, well, so it seems like if you've been on SVU, you're going to have your own show at some point, because, or if you're already famous, you can be on SVU on your in a whim. Any Law and Order. I only started watching Law and Order a couple of years ago. I never started watching it at the very beginning, but now as I watch, I'm like, every single person who's got their own Netflix show, who's got their own anything, is on it. And I get a little aggravated because I'm like, I went to high school at same class with a guy who's a pretty famous actor now, and I'm like, you didn't even do drama in high school. I hate you that you made it famous. and so I'm just like, but yeah, he was on SVU. He was on.
Was it Ron Jeremy?
No.
He's in trouble. That man's in trouble.
No, it was Scott Foley.
Oh, wow.
Scott Foley.
Yeah, he was in my class, and he was the only guy in my class who was my height, which is funny because we're both 6'1", and but then he was never like in drama, and I got into theater when I was in high school, but he did get, because somebody had to drop out in the musical Carousel, he got to then get thrown in as the guy who shoots the person, and that was his first thing in theater. And then all of a sudden he
got the bug.
Yeah, and then he got the bug, and he went to LA, and then was in Felicity, and then on every freaking show there's ever been, and I'm just like, damn it, he's not even a thespian.
But he's dreamy, so that counts for something. Yeah. So in all serious, ladies, I don't know that you guys know, Evo is a best-selling author. So he does actually, yeah. So Evo, have you been approached to appear on television shows?
In Bulgaria? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, not
Or
sitcoms.
Yeah, like sitcoms, to have a recurring role.
Did you write in English so it's something I can read?
No, unfortunately.
We can send you a copy and you can learn Cyrillic.
Exactly.
I'm like, well, you say you're best-selling, but it's not in any of the languages.
No, I do the usual. When I'm there, I do the usual talk shows. There's a show that I have. There's a very popular show called 120 Minutes, where I have a regular segment. But this is nonfiction that I produce. I shoot, edit, do the sound, do the computer animation if necessary, everything from A to Z. And then I send it to them and they air it on Sundays. There's a play, right? There's a couple of plays that are my stuff, but there's actors that are playing my narrative, my voice, like professional actors. So especially there's one right now that's really surprised me because it's got a major director and a major actor, and it's they call this mono spectacle. It's just one actor doing the entire play.
Huh.
And you know, there was the first show was today, and I just got a message that it went extremely well.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, but you know, I write, you know, I don't do the shows, but if I was to be on a show, it's the show that is on my screen, of course.
Very, very subtle, Evo. That's brilliant.
Or maybe this one.
Uh-huh.
I asked Kay earlier, I'm like, Kay, do you recognize that? She goes, what? And I'm like, do you recognize the carpet? Because you should recognize the carpet. She's like, no, I'm like, it's shining. I'm like, oh God.
How about you, Alena? Are you have you thought of a show that like you would fit as a guest?
Well, I thought of one I thought of a couple, like one that I would just like want to act on. I really like the show Space Force, but
I haven't actually watched it.
I liked it a lot, but it got like critically panned, and I
Uh-huh.
doubt it's gonna have a second season. But I like that show a lot. It's just like a governmental parody. It's like
Gotcha.
Get Smart, kind
Yeah.
of, but like in the modern. And then I was thinking, just for fun, I think it'd be fun to be on Love Is Blind, which is a reality show. I don't know if you guys have seen Love Is
Yes.
Blind.
Uh-huh.
I think it'd be fun to be on Love Is Blind to just like mess up their entire thing, because like the whole thing is just so weird to me that you would like propose marriage to someone you haven't like. Not only that, like they don't see each other, they have like a week to talk to each other. So you like talk to someone for a week and then determine whether or not to propose marriage to them. I think it'd just be funny to like throw a wrench in the system.
But hasn't arranged marriage been exactly what that is for hundreds and hundreds of scary years?
No, it's really similar. I think it's interesting. I actually like made a like mention of this, that like a lot of modern reality shows are about like being I don't know, like kind of getting married as soon as possible, like Love Is Blind and 90 Day Fiance, and there's like a bunch of shows that are all about
Love
getting
After
married.
Lockup. Love After Lockup. Woo!
I have never seen
That's
that.
the best thing in the world.
And then like a lot
is
of
apparently very excited about Love After Lockup.
No, well, I see commercials for it. I've never seen it, but it scares the crap out of me. I don't like reality shows in general, except for the very like first one that I thought was very genuine, which was it was a Japanese studio and it had people like bounce around on weird things, and it's sort of like the
Most Extreme Championship.
Of course.
That's the one.
Which
Yeah.
one?
Most Extreme Championship.
Something, but you know,
I was thinking about more about the one with the big balls where they're like bouncing across the balls and having to run, and the balls are like 10 feet across, and all the different obstacle course.
Uh-huh.
Japanese have come up with crazy shows.
Yeah.
And
other reality shows I hate and I won't watch them. I don't know who the Kardashians are, and I don't give a shit. So.
yeah.
Well, that's coming up later. We're going to get to the Kardashians in just a bit.
Oh.
So, yeah. Jamie, Jamie, do you have a show?
Like I just want to say my very best friend in LA is a casting producer, and she currently is primarily working in reality. And listening to her have to make phone calls and pitches and find people is mind-bending.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Jamie, I'm going to take your nod to say you don't have a show that you would appear on. I'm going to move over to Fernando.
I'm on my show right now that I appear on.
Oh, gotcha. Well, we are awesome. How about you, Fernando? Do you have a show that you would pick to be on?
Maybe Naked and Afraid. No.
Yeah. Yes.
That's every night for you, Fernando.
That was a good one. I don't know. Yeah, maybe MI5, you know, everybody dies there. They don't get attached. Maybe, I don't know, could be some sort of spy gig for a very short season, but
I got you.
make
I
it,
got you.
yeah.
Well, for me, there's only one choice, and that would be WWE Monday Night Raw. I would be the
Oh
new
my god. This is the
world champion.
Nice.
It could be nothing else.
Wrestler
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, that is unexpected yet awesome.
There would only be one name that would be appropriate for me as a professional wrestler. That would be Chocolate Thunder.
Chocolate Thunder.
That's
Yes.
the one. Yes.
Oh.
Has that not already been taken though?
Wasn't that? Oh, it was Chocolate Rain.
Yeah, by Lewis. Be very clear, there's only one Chocolate Thunder, for God's
Amen.
sakes.
Jamie,
Amen.
you mentioned yesterday a show that you are going not only to be in, but you're going to run, right? Or actually start a business based on a show.
A business based on a show, right? Not a business, but your retirement plan.
My retirement plan.
What is your retirement plan?
Service based off of.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the show now, but it's like being on the spectrum and helping them date. I don't know the name.
Oh,
Love on the Spectrum.
Yeah.
Thank you. Live on the Spectrum. I decided
That's an
my
awesome
very,
show.
I know, my very
Fantastic.
non-paying job when I grow up and retire is I'm going to help
If you don't
people on the
mind,
spectrum date. Sorry.
I'm literally going to say something to my friend who's on the reality circuit because she pitches shows all the time. And I would say that you have to be involved and you would be a consultant. And,
Awesome.
That's a great name.
It would Love on the Spectrum is a fucking stunning name. The networks would love it. She's working with Lifetime and all these other really big networks. They would love that. And it could go season after season. You never know what was coming.
Okay, I'll give it something.
That's
Well,
yeah. Please,
sweet.
I need your email, and I need to. I'll message you after because
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love it.
Retirement
potential
plan.
Potential there. You have no idea. Oh my god. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, another television/entertainment show. Do you guys think they could make a TV show about cops right now in this day and age where the cops don't have to break the rules to get the guy?
If I'm in a police department where that is not the case, then or where that is the case, and where they actually play by the rules, yes, they could film there. But otherwise, no.
Do you feel like? Am I
Alena,
mistaken?
Alena, what about that department down in Florida? Do they play by the rules?
Well, my mom's talking about an NPR I don't know if they do, but my mom's talking about a NPR episode I listened to like a while ago about a police department in Florida that it's like in a small community, but their chief has like radically changed kind of their training processes. So like part of their training is like historical education and really? Specific education about like racial history in the US and like racial biases. And then that's like part of their training is like history classes with professors at universities around the department. And then they also only have people police in communities they live in. So you have to live in the neighborhood you're policing within the parameters of the neighborhood you're policing. So they do a lot. He tries to mostly hire people that are older. He normally doesn't hire people that are like in their early 20s, for example. And he also tries to hire veterans that aren't dealing with anything that would be disabling, right? But veterans, because they're generally taught less intervention, like they're taught to not fire unless.
What town is this, or how can we look into that? Because that sounds really thoughtful and
yeah, I can't remember the specific county. It was an NPR episode I listened to forever ago.
I'll go back to NPR and I'll search it out. Like that's an easy search. Like
and it was him just like independently changing his training practices.
Mhm.
That would be an interesting department to look at. I don't know if it'd be hard to make a TV show about a department or a person in a department, because like I think even if there are other people acting in an abusive manner within your department, you're still like it. Even if it's not part of the show, you're still like complicit.
Right. Well,
As
actually,
a
that's actually
yeah,
kind of the point that I was getting at with the question. Like most of 100% of the cop shows that are on right now, not just cop shows, but like movies about cops, like the cop is always a bad guy, or I'm sorry, the cop always flouts the rules to essentially get the job done. Like, and I feel like it wasn't always that way. Like, at least in my head, if you look at like the cop shows that are on Nick at Night, like Car 54, or the older shows, like there was this whole idea of like cops upheld the law, and that's what made them different from the criminals. And at some point, and I'm guessing it was in the 70s, like all of a sudden cops became as bad as the folks that they were chasing. And so now there's no positive role models in media for cops, uh, unless I'm just missing it. Am I just
What about
missing it?
Dirt Harry?
Dirty
No.
Harry. There you go. That's a positive role model.
Shooter.
So cop shows are a problem. Cop
Uh-huh.
shows are a serious problem because they have conditioned us to expect the worst behavior from cops, and they have conditioned us to expect for them to break the rules in order to solve any serious problem. So without breaking the rules, without slapping the suspect around, hurting him, even borderline torturing that person, they're not going to get results. So
Uh-huh.
now the cops themselves, they're not dropouts from the Department of Quantum Mechanics at
Right.
Yale.
Uh-huh.
They're not,
No,
you,
dude,
you know,
there is no IQ test for a cop.
yeah. So
There's no very little education requirement. There's very little socialization requirement. There is very little requirement of any kind.
yeah,
The bar to be a cop is very low.
And only
very
six
low, and they are
Low.
modeling their behavior. Sometimes they're modeling their behavior on those expectations that are instilled in us from the cop shows. You watch any of the shows like the buddy comedies, Bad
Lethal
Boys,
Weapon.
whatever.
Yeah.
The formula is we're gonna go out on the street, get a suspect we think is guilty, and start messing with him, maybe beat him up, break a bunch of rules, fire some shots if necessary, and squeeze out a confession or a clue from that person. But see, it's dangerous because when this behavior trickles into reality, these cops are getting confessions from people that are not true,
yeah.
and they end up arresting and even convicting innocent people. And this is happening. It's been documented, and it's a problem, and it has to be changed. I don't know if this exists in any other genre. You have the good cop bad cop routine is in almost every movie.
Mhm.
I want to see like a show, like what is a show like a medical drama, another genre.
Mhm.
Would they do the same thing? Would they
Like
do?
a medical genre where somebody is like consistently messing up operations and everybody like
Oh,
like, I don't
they're
know, like
they're
lets
discussing.
it happen.
No, yeah, they're discussing a case, and he's like, well, the EKG looks very unorthodox, and the other guy goes, let's go slap him. Let's go beat him up. It's gonna solve the problem. Oh man, but no, you're right. This is a good topic. I think I've read about it or heard somewhere about it recently.
Mhm.
And I have to agree that that needs to change. But then, how do you make them? How do you change the formula? How do you make the shows interesting by people following the rule of law and filling out forms when they're
Right.
supposed to?
That's the there
yeah,
is a
it's unfortunate, like that what makes the show very, very appealing is he's a good guy,
Yeah.
but he's bending the rules to make sure that he can make the right thing happen. But
Yeah.
who's the good guy? I mean, in
Right.
real life, who's the good guy? So
Mhm.
you
Fernando,
get.
you keep raising your hand. What do you have to say?
Well, the interesting thing that always bugs me, and I watch a lot of like cop shows, and it's very entertainment to me, like watching like The Wire. There is a master cause, and some of the guys, they flip. There is some internal conflicts. Luther, he's an asshole, but I really love like all the drama. But the one thing that bugs me, and it's out of the real picture of the real world. Have you noticed how diverse the police staff is on TV shows? Like it's almost every TV show there is
White people and then
a
maybe
very
like
like
one more white guy?
black
Like the white people?
black
More white
woman
people?
woman's on a street, like it's a very diverse, like totally out of the reality. I almost think like they should do one like really picturing the truth, like they're super like assholes. Oh, let's frame this guy. We just need to have this case done and show like the corrupt judge, corrupt everything, like, and I don't know, thinking a different narrative that to be depressive. It's almost like maybe a Black Mirror of cop show.
Have you noticed how the chief is always black, and
Mhm.
he's made evil? He's made the bad guy in a weird way. He's made to look to be the bad guy by being the straight guy, by telling them, I want your badge and your gun on my desk right now because you broke the rules. So he plays by the rules, and because of that, he's a bad guy. And he's always black. It's just.
And there is a lot of Latinos too. That's kind of cool, but that's different. The real picture is pretty interesting. Like it's super. I'm wondering like about the producers, like what they definitely. I mean, there is some bias. Why they always pick like they overpick Latinos and black. Like usually the black police, the chief, they're always a black guy in the majority, a bunch of them, right?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to make a cop show where the protagonist is prosecuting cops who have broken the rules, like, because if you look at the list of rules that are being broken in every episode, we have breaking and entering, we have searches without warrants, we have abuse of people, torture, whatnot, usually though, when you have to write an episode for a show like this, there's a narrative and a story arc. You have to develop this story arc really fast. It has to unfold quickly, and the devices that they use, they cannot use protocol like regular protocol. They have to break the rules, because this is the engine that drives the narrative. They have to break some rules to speed up the investigation and catch the bad guy. So, unfortunately, I think we're stuck with that.
Yeah. So, guys, I'm having a weird beep in my ear. I hope it is not the Zoom call shutting us off, but just in case it is, I just want to say thank you guys all for showing up, and we will see you next week.
Hey.
But if it's not going to shut off, I want to keep going.
I got a word from our marketing department.
Oh, awesome.
I actually paid for the pro thing, so if we ever need to do it, I'll just give you my username and password because I've got it for another year.
Cool. It looks like we are shutting down.
Oh.
Are you guys still there?
I think it's the NSA. I'm here.
We're still here.
Okay, perfect. Let's keep going then. Perfect. All right.
Yeah, so, marketing told me that they have decided, because of coronavirus, to not contact new sponsors, but they were contacted by some of our old sponsors asking us to recycle copy.
Oh, awesome.
So today we're sponsored by, and you will remember this is the same copy, but we have to, I am obligated by contract to read it. So we are sponsored by Marushan Ramen Noodles with Shrimp. So here's the copy. If you are a college student or an aspiring expressionist selling your paintings at the Java break, or a homeless transient, or just plain suicidal, then Maruchan ramen with shrimp is for you. You found a rusted quarter on the dirty sidewalk? No, 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 sir. You just found yourself a delicious dinner. Don't you put it in the parking meter. Go straight to the store and treat your senses to something that will take both the words taste and buds out of your taste buds. There is pasta in this world so ornate, ethereal, and elegant, it is known as angel hair. Maruchan ramen noodles, on the other hand, are colloquially known as the devil's dehydrated pubic hair. Oh, yes, that crunchy goodness. You know you want it. It is not just for eating either. That solid brick inside the package has been known to be used as a doorstop, as a flying tool by whalers, flaying tool by whalers, and as a murder weapon, among many other things. Just pour hot water on it and watch the dry, disgusting mess instantly transform into a wet, disgusting mess. The mystery of what's inside the bowl of instant ramen has endured for decades and fascinated both the consumers and the manufacturer. There are little orange cubes that might or might not be carrots. Also, there's a very good possibility that they're both green peas and green pea. Our pride, of course, is the infamous microscopic shrimp that is harvested before actually hatching. Our shrimp is roughly the size of the comma used in the previous sentence. Our shrimp is so small, even R. Kelly wouldn't touch it.
Oh, oh, no.
That's,
Oh, no. Oh, no.
that's
Oh,
right.
oh, my.
That's right. We care. That's why our product is R. Kelly proof. In fact, our shrimp is so minuscule, it gets occasionally trampled by the toxic bacteria contained in our seasoning package. Speaking of our luscious seasoning, it is scrumptious and delectable, making everything within a mile radius smell like fish, or maybe fishermen, tired, sweaty fishermen. The seasoning adds an unexpected lethal dimension to a product that already packs more cholesterol than a Bavarian swine farm. Our noodles have it all. TBHQ? Check. BPA? Check. Saturated fat? Of course! Carbs? Tons! And do we have sodium, you ask?
Yes.
Dude, we have more sodium than the Atlantic fucking ocean. We can guarantee you one thing. We can guarantee you one thing. Our instant noodles are made of something. Our slogan is, we put a smile in your bowl. After eating it, you will agree the smile is in there, and judging by the taste, so is the rest of the body. But don't be a snowflake. Toughen up, wuss. Crack open that styrofoam noodle prison and set all that dry, frozen goodness free. It's time to put the man in ramen. Thank you, Maruchan. Thank you, Maruchan Ramen Noodles with Shrimp, for sponsoring our podcast.
Can I just say, you eat more Maruchan ramen noodles than any person I know. So it's
That explains a lot.
how much
That was hilarious.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, I think we are at the end of the show. Again, I want to thank all of you guys for joining us. Ivo, Alena, Jamie, Fernando.